crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I'm here with my Kat Scappiness design team project. I wanted to work with the sequins and dies that I received in the package, and someone had suggested a Christmas card, but they wanted the peppermint twist sequins, and my idea kind of worked better for the blue steel, so that's what I'm going to be using today. But I also picked out this set of winter sparrows from Lawn Fawn, and I'm going to kind of color them more like cardinals just because that's sort of a classic winter bird to me. I am choosing to use R14 and R17, partly because they're a little bit more orange, which fits cardinals pretty well, but also because I find that many reds bleed really easily. These more orangey reds don't bleed as much. The more intense the red, the more that I find that it bleeds. So if you've had trouble with reds bleeding in the past, maybe try this color combination instead. It is definitely going to be, like I said, a little more orangey, but it might be worth it. And then I'm going to color with G09 and 05 for the hats and other accessories, the earmuffs, the scarf, etc. I wanted to keep the birds very traditional Christmas colors because I was going to be using a lot of blues throughout the rest of the card. I kind of knew that in advance, and so I thought, well, they'll really pop if they are red and green on this blue surface. So I stamped all three of the birds, and then I stamped the branch, but I stamped it in brown so that I wouldn't have to do any coloring because it is a solid stamp, and I'm going to cut them all with the coordinating dies, as you can see there. Then I wanted to create my shaker card and my shaker panel. I wanted to use the square in order to have a really large shaker area, and I thought it would also kind of mimic maybe the look of a window. But I thought rather than just having like a plain rectangle background, this was a great opportunity to use the fancy scalloped dies from Kat Scappiness. And I could create a little interesting border along the bottom so it would be more like a banner that the shaker card was made out of. And I do want to mention, while I'm thinking about it, if you're watching this video when it's released on September 2nd, 2017, there is currently a Labor Day sale with 15% off in the store. So it's a great time if you're interested in some of these products to check them out. And there is a lot of the new Lawn Fawn in the shop right now, as well as some other great holiday goodies to get your holiday crafting season started. So I'm going to line up that border die. As you can see, I use a pair of wire cutters to cut my dies apart. I have found that to be most effective. I don't think you need to get special die cutting snips, whatever wire cutters from the hardware store will do. And then I'm going to take that banner piece, and I haven't cut the square out of the center yet because I did not want to make it harder to apply the distress ink, and if you cut the square out of the center, it would make some pieces of the cardstock a little bit thin and harder to work with. To make sure that I have nice full coverage, I wanted to, instead of just applying it with the tool, which takes a long time to add that much, if I want to get like really solid coverage, I can actually just swipe the distress ink, and this is distress oxide ink, which are also now available in the shop. Distress oxide ink right onto the cardstock and get that coverage a lot faster. So if you're trying to cover a large surface area, try applying the ink pad right to your cardstock surface. Then I spritzed it with some shimmer spray and some water just to add a little bit of interest to the background. Now I have my card base and I want to add more blue, but I decided to add a different distress oxide blue. So I'd used broken china for the banner element, and now I am using Salty Ocean for the background. So this is the background that you're going to see through the shaker card element. And at first I just sort of tried to eyeball how much space I would need to cover. But then when I did die cut the banner and I put it over the space, I realized that I hadn't covered enough with the Salty Ocean. So I sort of just gave myself some guidelines as to how far I had to bring the ink by tracing with a pencil. I made sure not to trace exactly on the die cut, but instead a little further in so that you would not see that pencil line. And then I'm just going to carefully add in a bit more of the distress oxide ink. And as I said, this is right onto my card base just to save a little bit of thickness since shaker cards can already be a bit difficult to nail. Although I usually just put 2 stamps on them and that's fine. Then I want to stamp the greeting from the stamp set. It says Seasons Tweetings. And I stamped it off on some scrap paper first. Notice that it was a little bit crooked, and so I used the grid lines on my block. And these are the apple pie memory blocks, which I also believe are available through Kat Scappiness, and I've used them for a long time and I'm very happy with the quality. And I stamped those, that sentiment on there as well. Now, I knew I wanted to use the blue steel because I'm trying to use a lot of blue in the background and just create a real sort of winter color, and almost kind of like the effect of snow in the background. However, I decided that rather than just using some acetate for a shaker card, as might be more traditional, I would try some vellum instead, because it would give the look of sort of frosted icy glass, and I thought that would be appropriate for a winter card. So I just stuck some vellum over that window opening, and then I'm going to attach all of my little pieces because I think that it's easier to adhere everything before you add the foam tape for the shaker. I'm using some dot adhesive to get good coverage on there. Liquid glue would probably work pretty well too. And gluing on my little tree branch there, and then I will also attach all of my little critters. I'm going to glue them flat on with some adhesives. Just make sure that it's pretty strong adhesive, because sometimes I find that vellum can be a little bit trickier to get things to stick to, so a strong adhesive is better. I also, because I used the Seasons Tweetings sentiment, I kind of wanted to incorporate some of these little music notes as well, so I decided to stamp on the vellum with stays-on, which worked quite well. I did stamp one off to, on the side to a scrap paper, just to make sure that I was getting good coverage, because I didn't want to apply it to my vellum and make a mistake. Then I have prepared some strips of doubled up foam tape. I really like to double up my foam tape when making a shaker. I just find that the shaker contents shake a lot more. I tried a couple different ways to make shaker cards before I came up with this method, and a lot of them I just didn't enjoy because the elements didn't, shake really well inside. So this is my personal favorite method, just kind of butting up all the pieces of foam tape against each other. I do kind of prefer doing, squares, rectangles, easier shapes, because again, it's, easier to line up that foam tape than if you're trying to get it around a circle, but there's some foam tapes out there that work great for that as well. I'm going to dump some of the blue steel sequins right onto the card base in the area that's going to be around it. I will line up my banner panel, remove the adhesive. I kind of just laid it over without removing the adhesive just to make sure it looked right, and then I am going to remove the adhesive. I also added a bit of that powder tool there, just so that there was no static cling making the sequins cling to the vellum, which I think is actually more of an issue with acetate. Sometimes the sequins really kind of stick to the acetate and they don't shake as well. So I find that that powder bag is quite helpful. And then I will adhere everything down, and that is it for my card today. It shakes awesome. They're using these beautiful sequins from Kat Scappiness, and there are so many new sequins in the shop that you definitely need to check out for the holidays. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in more craft tutorials, be sure to subscribe to the Kat Scappiness and Jess Crafts YouTube channel so that you can see more tutorials. Thank you so much for watching. Links in the video description below, including a discount code.